can't see anything.
Damn, we're off course.
No, I can't see it.
We're way off.
On June the 1st, 1999, as an American Airlines jet prepared to land amid fierce thunderstorms, passengers knew they were flying into trouble.
I don't know what made me aware, so doggone aware, that we were going to have a problem.
Oh, no!
Within minutes, their worst fears would be realized.
Other one!
Other one! Other one!
I'm yelling, get away from the plane. Run. Get away from the plane.
I don't know where we're at, but there's a road that goes around the airport. Well, we got a lot of people hurt.
This film tells the story of a tragic and avoidable disaster. The investigation would reveal a lethal combination of pilot error, the devastating effects of severe weather, and a dangerous race to keep the plane on schedule. It would also uncover disturbing evidence of an industry-wide failing, one that could kill again at any time. Despite reliable aircraft and extensive training, modern airlines and their crews face unprecedented pressures. Intense industry competition demands that the whole system, from the flight planners to the pilots, be efficient and on time. The stresses this can bring would play a vital role in the loss of Flight 1420. For a large operator like American Airlines, the pressures start with the complex task of scheduling their vast fleet. Dispatchers direct the planes around the world in a carefully choreographed dance. The strain of maintaining this efficiency affects the entire system.
Of course, competition has become very intense, a lot of pressure on the dispatchers, pilots, flight attendants, and basically the whole infrastructure to accomplish the mission and make a dollar.
Every effort is made to ensure that nothing disrupts these fragile schedules. But there is one variable that no airline can control: the weather. The southern states of America are especially prone to severe weather. Storms not only cause delays, but pose extreme dangers to commercial jets. Delays, scheduling problems, and fierce thunderstorms would all conspire to turn a routine flight into a terrifying race against time. On June the 1st, 1999, American Airlines Flight 1420 is running late.
The movement of the storms, everything is sliding to the southeast. So yes, we do have a stormy evening headed our way.
The delay of Flight 1420 put pressure on the pilots even before takeoff. The responsibility can fall on flight crews to keep a tight schedule on track.
Dispatch, please. Yeah, it's Michael Arago.
Crews have strict legal limits on their duty time. The first officer warned the dispatcher that they were in danger of running out of time.
Duty time limit at around 11:16.
The flight had to take off in the next hour or be cancelled. The pilots also became aware of another pressure caused by deteriorating weather near their destination.
Pilots had a weather briefing that they got before they departed Dallas-Fort Worth, which provided the forecasts, the weather alerts. The dispatcher and the captain preparing for the flight looked at the weather information and thought they could get to Little Rock before the thunderstorms impacted.
The 139 passengers just wanted to get home.
I was traveling with my son and my daughter. We were coming home from our vacation. It was my daughter's first flight. The plane was late and there were a lot of delays, of course. It was tiring, it was frustrating, it was late at night.
They soon began to sense that Flight 1420 was racing against the weather.
As they called for us to board the plane, and they wanted us there and just to get on really quickly. Just get on, sit down, put your seatbelt on, we're going.
They did mention that there was bad weather between us and Little Rock. They wanted to get ahead of the bad weather coming into Little Rock.
Finally, over 2 hours behind schedule, Flight 1420 leaves Dallas. Unknown to the crew, the storms are already massing around Little Rock. 40 minutes later, 1420 is 100 miles from its destination. At this point, the voice recorder transcript reveals a calm and steady cockpit routine.
American 1420, you gonna still want lower?
So far, it's okay.
So far, so good, ma'am. American 1420 will let you know.
The first officer on American 1420 was a new hire. He had just recently completed training, and he had been paired on one of his first trips with this management captain. So now you had a very experienced pilot sitting in the left seat with the company, paired with a relatively new hire.
Bushman and Origal are clearly relaxed as they plan their approach and landing.
25 for 24, set and armed. Think this stuff's gonna work out pretty well?
Yeah, we're almost down to max landing weight.
There's a moon out. Or a spaceship.
Oh, it's the mothership.
Center pump's coming off.
All right.
The pilots are keeping a close eye on the storms ahead. Onboard weather radar scans a cone-shaped area of sky in front of the plane. Potentially severe storms show up in red.
There's your big wad diddly.
Yeah, we got to get over there real quick.
Don't like that. That's lightning.
Sure is.
The American Airlines dispatcher issued an update on the shape and formation of the thunderstorms.
Right now on radar, there's a large slot to Little Rock. Thunderstorms are on the left and right, and Little Rock is in the clear, sort of like a bowling alley approach. Thunderstorms are moving east-northeastward towards Little Rock, and they may be a factor for our arrival. I suggest expediting our arrival.
Dispatcher gave this flight crew the weather information. It appeared to him that there was going to be a gap, or what he called the bowling alley, where you had two types of thunderstorms or two thunderstorms with an alley between it. And that the flight crew, if they had expedited their travel to Little Rock, could probably make it up that alley before the two storms closed together.
But as Flight 1420 descends, the plan to beat the storms is about to go seriously wrong. The pilots do not realize that the walls of the bowling alley are closing in. The route flown by American Airlines Flight 1420 is flanked by treacherous thunderstorms, a corridor the pilots call the bowling alley. With 80 miles to go, the path to Little Rock still appears to be clear.
This is the bowling alley right here.
Yeah, I know.
In fact, there are the city lights. Straight there.
You want to go down?
Not yet, but pretty soon. We're about 80 miles from the airport, and we started our descent toward it. Quite a light show on the side of the aircraft, and we're going to be passing that on our way to Little Rock. It's been a pleasure having you aboard our short flight, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for flying American Airlines.
The lightning seemed to be on both sides of the plane. It lit up the inside of the plane. Very quick, you know, just kaboom type lightning, which was a little scary.
There was quite a light show off to the left. Normally that doesn't get pointed out. If you go past the Grand Canyon, that gets pointed out, but not a lightning show.
As the plane descends, transcripts of the cockpit voice recordings show that the pilots are aware of rough weather ahead.
Descent checks complete.
We got to get there quick.
Yep. Sit them down early.
Hello?
I think it's going to get a little bumpy here again, if you don't mind.
Do we need to sit down?
Well, how far through are you?
We're almost done, but not quite.
Well, finish it up real quick.
Okay.
I thought it was more turbulent than normal. I remember especially watching the flight attendant, and I was looking at her with amazement. I was wondering how could she hold those trays and pour the drinks and not spill everything. From that point, it just got worse.
With flaps 40, 130,000 pounds, 200 feet.
As they prepare for landing, the pressure on the pilots will now steadily rack up.
Not required.
Manual brakes?
Manual's fine.
At first, as the crew pick their way around the storms, everything seems steady.
Yeah, actually, there's a city right there.
Yeah.
Breaking through this crowd. Good, doing good.
Even when the first indication comes that the storms are advancing, the pilots take it in their stride.
Whoa. Looks like it's moving this way, though.
Yeah. Just some lightning. Straight ahead.
I think we're gonna be okay, though. Right there.
Yep, right down the bowling alley.
As my friends would say, California cool.
Cool. Peachy.
Exactly. 1420 at 11.3 for 10,000.
But when the pilots contact the controller at Little Rock, he gives the first of a series of alarming weather alerts.
Roger. We've got a thunderstorm just northwest of the airport moving through the area now.
Wind is 280 at
2.8, gusts 4.4, and I'll have new weather for you in just a moment, I'm sure.
Gale force winds are gusting to 50 miles per hour, enough to blow tiles off a rooftop. High winds pose a severe hazard for Flight 1420. Crosswinds could make it difficult to control the plane on landing. The pilots must quickly determine if they're within safe limits. They calculate the strength of the crosswind from its angle to their final approach.
All right, so that's 280 at 4.4.
Gusts at 44.
Right. Near the limit.
Well, it's 40 degrees off. I mean, you're not out of the limit because of the angle, but that's pretty close.
The crosswind limit for landing is 30 knots on a dry runway, but Bushman and Origal now become confused about what happens if it rains.
Well, 30 knots is the crosswind limitation, but see, 30 knots...
That's
well,
dry.
Wet. Yeah, dry.
What's the wet?
20.
It's 25.
The discussion is never resolved, and the crosswinds will soon be gusting well over the limit.
Flight attendants, prepare for landing, please.
The pilot's attention now returns to the bad weather ahead.
He said the storm was to the northwest of the field?
You said northwest.
Yeah.
Lightning strike, you said storm.
But the task of tracking the storms is made more difficult by the lack of sophisticated radar at Little Rock.
American 1420, your equipment's a lot better than what I have.
How's that final for 2-2 left looking?
What's that?
We can see the airport, but we can just barely make it out.
We should be able to make 2-2. That storm is moving closer like your radar says.
But it's a little farther off than you thought.
The controllers are going, well, your radar is better than mine, so forth. The controller in this accident had a monochromatic, or basically almost a black and white set of a radar, and could not determine the intensities of the storm.
Just 8 miles from the airport, the pilots now face another key decision: how to approach the runway through bad weather. Controllers routinely ask pilots if they want to land visually, instead of relying on the airport's Electronic Instrument Landing System, or ILS. But a visual approach means they must be able to see the runway, and this is proving difficult.
No, we can't really make it out right now. We're gonna have to stay with you as long as possible.
Now, as the wind suddenly changes direction, the pilot's problems quickly mount up.
The wind's kind of kicked around a little bit right now.
It's 330 at 11.
Whoa.
It's a little better than it was.
Yeah, 330 is the tailwind, though.
The crew now face the problem of having the wind behind them when they land, greatly increasing the dangers of overshooting the runway. Then the controller calls in with more bad news.
Right now I have a wind shear alert.
Wind shear is a sudden change of wind direction over a short distance. It is one of the most feared elements of a severe thunderstorm. To combat constantly shifting winds, the pilots are forced to throw away their previous approach plans and start again. They have to reverse the direction of their approach, so they will be landing into the wind.
Yeah, we're gonna need,
We would rather go into the headwind, sir.
The pilot's decision to land in the opposite direction is a prudent move, but it will create serious problems.
Okay, right turn 250.
The long way around?
Yes, sir. You're a little close to the airport.
Yeah, right.
250, that'll work.
As the pilots turn to their new approach, the aircraft's weather radar, which scans in front of the plane, loses track of the thunderstorms. Worse still, the turn delays landing by more than 10 minutes. And with every passing moment, the storms are growing in intensity.
Runway 4 right, 111.3042. I think that was the airport below us.
Yeah, right, okay.
Switching runways, keeping track of the storms, all add greatly to the pilot's heavy workload.
Okay, 2217 glide slope intercept all the way down. Missed approached right turn to 4000. Let's see, you got the airport, right? So
yeah, I don't have the airport.
Well, I'm saying you've got the ILS.
Yeah, I got the ILS.
Airline pilots, they make their money when they're flying into bad weather. When the weather goes down, now all of a sudden the workload starts to increase because you have to factor in low clouds, rain, lightning, thunderstorms, wind. All of these elements start to bombard you the closer you get into the airport environment.
American 1420, it appears we have a second part of this storm moving through. The wind now is
340 at 16 gust 34.
With the storms worsening, the pilots need to make it to the airport as quickly as possible.
You want to accept the short approach, keep it tight?
Yeah, but if you can see the runway, because I don't quite see it.
Yeah, it's right there.
All right.
See it?
You just point me in the right direction, I'll start slowing down. Give me flaps 11.
Damn, it's heading right over the field.
American 1420, did you call me?
We got the airport, but we're going right in between clouds. I think it's to my right,
Off my 3 o'clock low, about 4 miles.
American 1420, that's it. Do you want to shoot the visual approach, or you want to go out for the ILS?
A visual approach will allow 1420 to reach the airport faster than one that depends on instruments.
I can start the visual
if we can do it.
American 1420's cleared, visual approach, runway 4 right. If you lose it, need some help, let me know, please.
But a visual approach means the pilots must keep the runway in sight at all times. The transcripts now reveal rising confusion on the flight deck as the captain struggles to fix the position of the airport.
Okay, did you notice something? Did you see the airport there?
Where?
There, okay, right. You're on a base for it, okay? It's right there.
Well, I'm on a base now?
It's like a dog leg. We're coming in, and there it is, right there.
I lost it.
You're downwind of it. It's right there.
Well, I still don't see it. Just vector me. I don't know.
American 1420, monitor 118.7, runway 4 right, cleared to land. The wind now 330 at 21.
18.7 will monitor, American 1420, thanks. Cleared to land, runway 4. See
those red lights there. Now, what are they in relation to?
There's the runway. There's 2 runways.
Yeah, I know. See, we're losing it. I don't see how we can maintain visual.
The pilots now have to abandon their direct visual approach and request help from Little Rock's instrument landing system. But this delays landing even further.
Approach, American 1420.
American 1420, yes, sir.
Yeah, there's a cloud between us and the airport, and we've lost the field. We're on a vector.
Well, basically, we're on the last vector you gave us.
Which is like a dog leg, it looks like.
American 1420, can you fly heading 220? I'll take you out for the ILS.
This news footage shows the storm on the night of the crash. As heavy rain cuts visibility even further, Captain Bushman becomes frustrated.
See, I hate droning around visual at night and weather without having any clue where we are.
The thing that was really getting to me was I knew we were getting very low. I knew that the rain was not letting up and that we were being jolted around quite heavily.
See how we're going right in the middle of this crap?
Right.
Approach American 1420. I know you're doing your best, sir, but we're getting really close to this storm, and we'll keep it really tight if we have to.
The plane was rocking and rolling at that point. It was pretty doggone unstable. I don't know what made me aware, so doggone aware, that we were going to have a problem. I don't know what did that.
As Flight 1420 lines up for final approach, they are heading straight into the heart of the thunderstorm. The crisis for the flight crew is about to get even worse. With Flight 1420 4 minutes from touchdown, severe thunderstorms give the pilots another major problem. Blinding rain and thick cloud are obscuring the airfield. The visibility on the runway, known as RVR, is getting dangerously low.
We're going right into this.
American 1420. Right now we have heavy rain on the airport. I don't have new weather for you, but visibility is less than a mile. And the runway 4-right RVR is 3,000.
Visibility is down to 3,000 feet. The pilots are unsure if it's safe to land.
3,000?
Roger that, 3,000, American 1420.
This is 4 right, correct?
American 1420, that's correct, sir. And runway 4 right, clear to land. The wind's now 350 at 30, gusts 4-5.
Can we land?
030 at 45, American 1420.
3,000 RVR, we can't land on that.
No, 3,000 if
what
you
do
look
we
at...
need?
No, it's 2,400 RVR.
Okay, right.
Yeah, we're fine.
All right. 15. Landing gear down. And lights, please.
As we descended through a very dark black cloud. The rain seemed to be going horizontal.
It was windy enough, apparently outdoors, that the plane was moving around a lot. I'd never done this before. I buckled up really tight, almost uncomfortably tight, and I was concerned enough. I put my shoes back on and got ready to go. There was something going on that made me very nervous.
The crosswinds are way over the limit. The pilots could divert to another airport, but they don't, even as the weather gets worse.
Wind shear alert. Center field wind 350 at 32, gusts 4-5. North boundary wind 310 at 29. Northeast boundary wind 320 at 32.
The jolts seemed to be much stronger than I'd ever felt. You could tell that the thunderheads were extremely close to the plane. I said words to the effect that if he tries to land in this weather, we'll crash.
Flaps 28.
Add 20.
Then visibility falls drastically below the limit.
American 1420, the runway 4 right RVR is now 1,600.
Damn.
The crew are rattled. Under pressure, they begin to make mistakes.
Can't see anything. Looking for 460.
It's there.
Couldn't see anything. The wind was throwing the plane around so violently. I think it was enough of a crosswind that I was afraid we were going to land on the wing. We felt like we were going to tip over. I mean, it just felt that bad.
You want 40 flaps?
Yeah, I thought I called it.
I knew the way he was jockeying the plane and the sounds of the engines that he was trying to get lined up for the runway, and I couldn't see it, and I couldn't see it, but I could tell we were close, and I kept thinking, where's the runway?
1,000 feet. 20. 40-40 land.
This is a can of worms.
Wind is 330 at 28.
I'm going to stay above it a little.
There's a runway off to your right. You got it?
No.
I got the runway in sight. You're right on course.
I got it.
Stay where
I
you're
got
at.
it. I got it.
Most of the people at that point in the plane were just holding on really tight, just looking forward. I mean, like rigid. I suspected the worst. I mean, I really did. We might not get down.
In the midst of fierce thunderstorms, Flight 1420 is about to land at Little Rock. Low visibility and high winds make the final approach treacherous.
Wind 330 at 25.
500 feet. Plus 20.
Wind 330 at 23.
Damn, we're off course. No, I can't see it. Way off. I can't see anything. Got it? Got it! 100 feet. 50 feet. 40. 30. 20. 10.
We hit the runway real hard. We didn't slow down.
We're down. We're sliding. Oh, no.
We were still going very, very, very fast. And at that point, I thought, we're dead.
On the brakes!
It was just chaos. It was terrifying. Quite literally terrifying.
Other one! Other one, other one!
When the plane actually stopped, there was a moment of absolute, total silence.
There was fire in front of me, and I could see debris, and it was silent. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm dead.
Well, I knew we were in deep trouble. You know, it's a process that started, and in some way it's got to end. It's going to end, and when it ends, how do I get out of here?
Within those minutes, I heard a small scream, and I heard it get louder and louder and louder, like it was on a megaphone. And it hit me, that's my daughter. And it's like, oh, okay, we've got to get out of here. You know, we got to do something.
The passengers struggled to get out before fire engulfed the cabin.
I had a broken scapula, dislocated shoulder, and cracked ribs, and all sorts of stuff going on, but I didn't feel a thing. I just wanted to get out. I was not going to die in that thing. I got out of that plane probably in 10 seconds. It's like being in war. Go, go, go.
I'm yelling, get away from the plane. Run. Get away from the plane. Go, go, go.
Some folks looked like they'd been in an explosion. Their clothes were tattered. I saw a man using his cell phone to call for help.
Okay, I don't know where we're at, but there's a road that goes around the airport. Well, we got a lot of people hurt.
Traveling at over 100 miles an hour, the aircraft ran off the end of the runway, plowed down a 25-foot embankment, and slammed into a steel walkway. The plane was ripped into several pieces. The wreckage finally came to rest on the muddy banks of the Arkansas River. Ten passengers died in the crash. Captain Bushman was killed instantly when the cockpit was split open by the steel walkway.
It was a shame I hadn't, literally a shame that I had not done more to save people. That's the worst nightmare I have.
The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board was immediately notified. Greg Fife was the NTSB's chief investigator.
The night American 1420 happened, I received a phone call about 1 o'clock in the morning. from our communications center at the NTSB advising that there had been an aircraft accident at Little Rock, and there may be some fatalities involved.
Fellow investigator Don Ike was quickly on the scene.
There's a sense of adrenaline as an accident occurs like this, where you're being launched to the accident scene. And there's a strong urge to get there, to try to find out what happened, to document the facts so we can prevent it from happening.
The NTSB set up a command center close to the site. They would spend the next 18 months piecing together the events that led to the crash.
We did have a basic idea when we got on scene of what had happened. We just didn't know why. We knew the airplane went off the end of the runway. We knew that the pilots couldn't stop it. We knew that the aircraft was destroyed going through this catwalk. We knew that the subsequent post-crash fire killed people. We just didn't know why at that point.
The NTSB worked backwards from the impact, piecing together the sequence of events from the final approach all the way back to Dallas-Fort Worth. The first question for investigators was why the pilots had been unable to stop the plane. Analysis of the tire tracks left by the skidding plane showed a complete loss of control after touchdown.
When you look at the width of those tire tracks, you then see that the airplane wasn't going straight, but in fact was sliding sideways. Here you have this machine that weighs 130, 140,000 pounds. It has 100 or so people on it. It is sliding uncontrolled off this runway.
Something had gone terribly wrong on landing, and investigators had to find out why. They questioned the survivors of Flight 1420, who would provide an extremely important clue. The NTSB investigators needed to find out why Flight 1420 had slid uncontrolled off the runway. They set out to interview surviving passengers, many of whom were local to Little Rock. Their eyewitness testimony would point the inquiry towards the most important mechanical system used to slow a plane down after landing.
We were really interested in were those passengers that were sitting in a position right near the wings who could look out the windows and tell us whether they saw the ground spoilers deploy.
Spoilers are large flaps that flip up on landing, literally spoiling the airflow over the wings. This prevents them from giving lift and allows braking to take effect. Crucially, none of the passengers saw the spoilers deploy. To check their testimony, the NTSB examined information from the airplane's black boxes. The flight data recorder, which monitors the systems on board during flight, confirmed that the spoilers had failed to deploy. The implications were catastrophic. Flight 1420 had no hope of stopping in time.
On the brakes! We're sliding! Oh, no!
So was the failure of the spoilers to deploy a mechanical problem? Or in the confusion of final approach, was it pilot error? To find out, the NTSB would make clever use of the cockpit voice recorder, or CVR.
Make it out. You want 40 flaps?
Yeah, I thought I called it.
One of the key elements that the CVR team was listening for was the setting of the spoiler handle. We saw on the flight data recorder that the ground spoilers didn't deploy. We wanted to know if the handle had been actually armed or not, and we were looking for a specific click sound. We couldn't find that sound on the accident CVR, which led us to believe that the handle was never in the armed position at touchdown.
Intensely busy in the cockpit, the pilot simply forgot to arm the spoilers. Had they deployed, the MD-80 aircraft might have overshot the runway, but it would have stopped before hitting the catwalk. The pilots had made serious and ultimately fatal errors, but investigators wanted to know why. They suspected that pressures earlier in the flight led to these mistakes. They turned their attention to the weather.
clear to us that severe weather had been in the area around the time of the accident. How it played a part was one of the things we had to try to discover. And putting the radar images in, the observations, trying to put it all together, would take weeks, of course, to get this information done.
The NTSB wanted to know what role the weather had played in the crash, and had the pilots been fully aware of the dangers.
See how we're going right in the middle of this crap.
One of the concerns that all pilots have when they're trying to land an aircraft is, of course, making sure that the crosswinds that they may experience don't exceed the capabilities of either themselves or the aircraft.
The wind's now 350 at 30, gusts 45.
Can we land?
This particular flight crew had a limitation, not imposed by themselves, but imposed by the company, and that was that they were not allowed to exceed a 10-knot crosswind on a wet runway.
Crosswind limits are clearly stated in the operating manual. The crew of 1420 were flying beyond regulation limits.
This is a can of worms.
There's a runway off to your right. You got it?
No.
The effect of the winds can be seen in this NTSB animation, showing the captain's desperate last maneuvers.
Winds definitely impacted the flight. If you look at the animation, you'll see them fighting the winds. Definitely not good.
We're down. On the brakes. Other one.
But when you start talking about a wet runway, thunderstorms, not good.
But were the pilots of 1420 aware of the hazards posed by the severe weather? For the NTSB, previous accidents had made the dangers of thunderstorms all too clear. In 1994, a US Air DC-9 fell victim to wind shear in North Carolina. The plane stalled at 250 feet and fell from the sky. A Delta TriStar crashed after flying into the most severe kind of wind shear that created an intense downdraft of air. So, should the crew of 1420 have aborted the approach?
There's the runway. There's two runways.
Yeah, I know. See, we're losing it. I don't see how we can maintain visual.
This NTSB weather animation overlays the path of the aircraft with ground radar images of the storm. Bushman and Origal landed in lightning, torrential rain and hail, and the crosswinds gusting well over the limit.
Based on the information that we had from ground-based weather radar, the flight crew of 1420 should have been seeing majority of that storm. They would have been seeing the leading edge going green, rapidly changing the yellow to bright red.
I can't see anything. Looking for 460.
As they progressed towards Little Rock, they started to paint the bad weather not only on their onboard radar, but they could see out the window lightning. And one of the key statements that this captain made, which basically summarized the entire flight, was the captain saying,
I hate droning around visual at night in weather without having any clue where we are.
I hate droning around at night when I don't know where I am. That was such a key statement. It was at that point, by an experienced 10,000-hour captain, that he should have abandoned the approach going into Little Rock and either gone to his alternate or made his way back to Dallas. But to make a statement like that and then continue an approach to an airport where you have a thunderstorm in progress over the airport is a recipe for disaster.
But the pilots were not the only ones to be heavily criticized. As the investigation continued, American Airlines flight policy would come under fire, and an industry-wide scandal was about to be exposed. For months after the crash of Flight 1420, the NTSB dug deeper into the circumstances surrounding the accident. The question was, who would take responsibility? American Airlines were reluctant to admit that their pilots had knowingly flown into a severe thunderstorm. Initially, they tried to pin the blame on the controller at Little Rock. Americans started legal action against the authorities responsible for airport controllers. Americans' lawyers claimed that the crew of Flight 1420 had not been given all the current weather information.
American 1420, your equipment's a lot better than what I have. How's that final for 22 left looking?
But after interviewing the controller at Little Rock, investigators were unconvinced.
It's highly unlikely that the flight crew wasn't sufficiently informed about the nature of the weather and the severity of the weather, not only en route, but of course, during the course of the landing at Little Rock.
The focus turned back on the pilots. Lawyers representing the passengers were determined to get American Airlines to accept liability for the crash.
I mean, it is about money in a way, because you want to make them pay. Because I saw the letters that they would write back to my lawyer, minimizing what we had been through, minimizing my daughter's burns, cuts, the psychological effects it had on my son at age 15, and my daughter and me, and just minimizing everything. So you want to find a way to hurt him.
Renee Salmons and many other survivors attended the NTSB public hearings held in Little Rock 8 months after the disaster. With the captain dead, the co-pilot was the first to testify.
As we went off the end of the runway, I could see the runway lights coming up, and I knew we were going off the end of the runway. I couldn't see anything in front of us, and all I thought was the gear would collapse, and we would continue to slide. It's got to be okay. And then all of a sudden, I felt the impact.
Well, I followed it as close as I could. You bet. I mean, I wanted to know what happened.
I went to all of the NTSB hearings. I was outraged. I was mad. For me, they didn't ask him the right questions. You know, I wanted to ask him, what were you thinking? Why did you all play chicken with our lives?
The co-pilot's testimony was highly controversial. In his account of the final moments of the flight, he claimed to have told the captain to abort the approach, otherwise known as a go-around.
Who can call for abandoning the approach?
Either pilot.
Did you call for a go-around at any time?
Yes, sir, I did. It sounds like after reviewing the tape, you can definitely hear the go and the around. It seems like he talked the same time I did, and I looked over at him, and he brought the airplane back on course.
However, when NTSB specialists studied the cockpit voice tapes, they couldn't hear this statement.
Damn, we're off course. No, I can't see it. Way off.
Even though he stood by that statement, we could never validate it. That led to a controversial finding because we weren't really sure if that took place or not.
The NTSB asked tough questions of the co-pilot, but was American Airlines training also at fault? Greg Feith put an American Airlines manager on the stand. What were the company rules for pilots flying near thunderstorms?
When asked the question, he basically responded that he just didn't want his pilots flying into that type of weather.
Our pilots are forbidden to enter or depart a terminal area blanketed by thunderstorms.
To the NTSB, this policy simply wasn't clear-cut enough.
Well, that's a very subjective call for a pilot. Pilots need boundaries. You have to set limits. If there's convective activity, that is thunderstorm activity, it's within 5 nautical miles of the airport. There's lightning, there's wind shear. Don't go there.
The deeper they looked, the more the NTSB found that flying into thunderstorms was disturbingly widespread. Extraordinary evidence given at the hearings revealed that the problem spread through the whole industry. Expert analysts from MIT spent weeks recording the flight paths of planes landing at Dallas-Fort Worth. They waited for thunderstorms and watched how pilots reacted. Their animation plots the planes coming into land, overlaid with radar images of the storms. Anything yellow or orange is a potentially severe thunderstorm. Of the 2,000 encounters with thunderstorms, 2 out of 3 pilots flew into the storm and landed their aircraft.
I was very surprised by the testimony at the public hearing, given the fact that they're flying the best equipment, typically have the best training, have the best information available to them. For those decisions to be made to continue into harm's way, it was very surprising to me that they tried to do that. Pilots know that if we go into that thunderstorm, we may not come out of that thunderstorm, and if we do, it may not be basically in one piece.
Why did so many pilots fly into danger? The MIT researchers found pilots were more reckless if they were behind schedule, if it was night, and if aircraft in front of them were also flying into bad weather.
In the Little Rock case, 2 of those 3 elements were present. It was night, and they were running late.
The MIT investigation was chilling evidence that the crash at Little Rock was part of a much wider problem.
We're not seeing a major improvement, put it bluntly. There's a limited time for training. Weather was a significant part that set up the stage of this accident. We do not condone any operation to be conducted in such weather. It is a known severe weather hazard, and it should have been suspended, no operation.
Ironically, it also emerged that new technology may be partly to blame for bad decision-making.
We're desensitizing pilots. We're putting weather radar on board aircraft. We're putting wind shear detection systems on airplanes. Most of these systems only react when you're in the hazard. That time, it may be too late.
But the root causes behind the crash of 1420 went even deeper. Why were the pilots so determined to land? Greg Feith found the answer back at Dallas-Fort Worth, before the flight even left the ground. There he found signs of a deadly condition in aviation known as get-there-itis.
There may have been a sense of get-there-itis. The flight crew knew that they were pushing their 14-hour duty day. It had been a long duty day. The airport's right there. Let's try it. Let's see if we can accomplish the mission. Pilots are goal-oriented. We're mission-oriented. We will stick our nose in there to try and see if we can accomplish the mission. Sometimes we will accomplish that mission, but sometimes we get too far into it that we can't bail out. We don't have any more options, and bad things happen.
For Flight 1420, the pressures of get-there-itis sparked a fatal series of mistakes and misjudgments. At the end of a long day, rushing to beat the storms and get the passengers to their destination, the crew of Flight 1420 made the basic mistake that cost 11 people their lives. They forgot to arm the spoilers.
They were so busy trying to get the plane on the ground that they forgot to do what they needed to do. They didn't have time to do it.
After the accident, American Airlines revised their checklist procedures. Both pilots must now confirm that the spoilers are armed, ready for landing. In October 2001, the NTSB published their report. They concluded that the 2 main causes of the crash were first, the decision to land in a thunderstorm, and second, the pilot's failure to arm the spoilers. American Airlines declined to take part in this film or comment on the findings.
As an investigator, I had over 2 years to basically criticize and determine what the captain was trying to accomplish. That particular captain had seconds to make decisions based on the information he was getting. And while it's unfair for an acts investigator like myself to start pointing the finger, I wasn't there.
I blame them, but I'm not angry per se at them. I don't waste my time with anger on them.
They'd got nothing but flack. You can understand it, but I can't understand a person, wanting to kill himself either. We've been out and visited his grave at the Air Force Academy 3 times, and the guy just got caught up in a bad situation. I mean, been there, done that.
One year after the crash, the survivors of Flight 1420 gathered at the site to remember those who died. For surviving passengers, the effects of the crash are long-lasting and profound.
We, as a family, worked long and hard to work through it. We had many talks. It blew apart a lot of relationships. You find out who your real friends are.
I cannot do enough to mitigate what happened to the individuals on an airplane. Life is a precious thing, and you're definitely here for a very short time. You know, all of a sudden, your life looks like about a second and a half long.
The impact of the crash is something that I try to block out of my mind because I still feel a reaction.
People ask me if I'm okay. Well, no, I'm not okay. No, we'll never be okay. I mean, what is this okay stuff? You're different. And deal with it. I mean, that's the way we're going to be.
The day after it happened, when Adam and I were in the hospital in Samantha, Adam and I got up and we looked out the window and we just couldn't believe that life went on. We just couldn't believe cars were driving and it was sunny and life went on, you know, because for us, life stopped.
This is a true story. The reconstructions are based on original cockpit voice recordings and eyewitness accounts.
No family wants to lose a loved one, daughter, son. None of us think it's going to happen to our family. We read about these horrible crashes and we think, thank God, you know, and chances are it won't happen to us. The odds are in our favor.
You got it? What are you doing there? It just got worse, okay?
In January 2000, an Air Alaska jet with 88 passengers and crew suffered a catastrophic failure that tore it from the sky. A shocking chain of negligence and error had led to disaster. When a whistleblower mechanic from the airline tried to sound the alarm about faulty maintenance procedures, he was suspended from his job. The investigation exposes deeply worrying shortcomings in maintenance and regulation that afflict the airline industry. It shows how a series of devastating errors combine to produce a tragic accident, one that could happen again.
Release it.
Puerto Vallarta is a popular holiday resort on the Mexican Pacific coast, one of several Mexican destinations served by Alaska Airlines. Colleen Worley went there to celebrate a family birthday. The 34-year-old was a keen traveler who spoke Spanish well and had visited Mexico many times. Colleen and the other holidaymakers returning from Puerto Vallarta settle in for the 4-hour flight to San Francisco. In the warm afterglow of their holidays, they are looking to the future. Colleen and her fiancé Monty were planning to start a family later that year. The pilots on Flight 261 are very experienced. Both Captain Ted Thompson and First Officer Bill Tansky have thousands of hours flying MD-80s. They know the plane well. The MD-83 is one of a successful group of rear-engined low-wing planes. Originally launched in 1980, over 1,100 were delivered worldwide.
Flaps. Check, confirmed. Spoilers. Check. Arm.
But on the 31st of January 2000, as they prepared Flight 261, Thompson and Tansky had no idea that deep in the plane's tail lay a critical weakness. Colleen Worley and her fiancé, Monty, were planning their forthcoming wedding.
They had announced their engagement at Christmas time, and so it was a time for everybody to sort of congratulate them, and so we decided we'd have a party for the family.
Abby Miller Bush had visited Mexico with her husband Ryan and their friends to celebrate her new job at Microsoft.
It's hard to describe how joyful a girl she was. She was well known for that care that she had in her, a trait that you can't put a value on.
Dean and I had been there a lot together, and it was the first time that he went without me. Dean taught me how to play. He was always up. He told jokes a lot. People described him kind of as a puppy dog.
Alaska Airlines was a successful carrier with routes up and down the west coast of America and into Mexico. Flight 261 left Puerto Vallarta as a routine flight with no hint of the danger to come. The devastating failure that would bring catastrophe to Flight 261 did not come out of the blue. In fact, it was the culmination of a chain of mistakes that began years earlier. Maintenance procedures at the company had come under scrutiny 2 years earlier when a whistleblower set off an investigation by the Federal Aviation Administration. But the day Flight 261 left Puerto Vallarta, the investigation was still underway and the whistleblower suspended from his work. Shortly after takeoff, Captain Thompson and First Officer Tansky get the first sign of trouble. The horizontal stabilizer on the tailplane won't move. The pilots carry out a standard checklist to try and free it.
Stabilizer trim switch. Normal. Circuit breakers. Reset if tripped.
D9, D10, D11, okay.
The stabilizer on the MD-83 is the 40-foot wide horizontal surface at the front of the tail. It's like another wing. Together with the elevators at the rear of the tail, the stabilizer is used to adjust the angle of the plane in flight. The stabilizer was jammed. Thompson and Tansky assumed there was a fault in the electric motors that move it up and down. They believed they could fix the problem. They had no idea they were in great danger.
What they dealt with was something that really snuck up on them. It was not supposed to be a big deal. If it had been, they would have turned around and gone back in to the Mexican airfield they came out of. But they were led down this road of accepting this problem as a small problem, so it's perfectly all right to troubleshoot it.
The pilots repeatedly try the two switches that operate the stabilizer. The primary motor activated by the switch on the control stick known as the pickle switch, and the sliding suitcase handles on the central console.
Either system operative.
No.
Both systems inoperative. Consider stab jam. Do not use autopilot.
Check.
The jammed stabilizer is pushing the aircraft down towards the ground. At 28,500 feet, the pilots switch off the autopilot and fly the plane manually. They have to pull back hard on the control column to lift the nose of the plane up. This requires considerable effort. The plane climbs for the next 7 minutes to its cruising altitude of 32,000 feet. As they fly up the coast, the pilots contact Alaska Maintenance Department for assistance.
Maintenance, we need to know if any faults like this got reported recently for this aircraft.
Whether there are any switches that we might not be aware of that could get those motors turning again.
Roger 261. I
Have verified no history on your aircraft in the past 30 days.
Yeah, we didn't see anything in the logbook. Why don't you move your seat forward? I'll check this pedestal back there. Beyond that, I don't think there's anything we haven't checked.
I use the example of the average layman, I think, can understand. If you try to start your car and it doesn't crank, you try jiggling the key in the socket and then try it again. And I think that the crew was probably understandably going through a lot of these, well, maybe it'll work now, or let's try this, let's try that.
The pilots want to divert to Los Angeles, but Alaska Airlines dispatch, coordinating the movements of the company's planes, is worried this will upset the busy schedule.
261 dispatch, if you want to land at LA, of course, for safety reasons, we will do that. Tell you though, if we land in LA, we're looking at probably an hour and a half. We got a major flow program going right now.
Well, boy, you really put me in a spot up here. I don't want to hear that the flow is the reason you're calling.
Because I'm concerned about overflying suitable airports. Well, we want to do what's safe, so if that's what you feel is safe, just want to make sure you have all the info.
We might ask if they have a ground school instructor available. We could discuss it with him, and a simulator instructor.
Dispatch 261, we're wondering if we can get some support out of the instructors up there.
Thompson and Tansky now ask for a pilot instructor who might know the solution to their unusual problem.
Stand by.
As they wait for a reply, their frustration begins to show.
Just drives me nuts, you know? Not that I want to go on about it, but it just blows me away. They think we're going to land, they're going to fix it. Now they're worried about the flow. Well, I'm sorry. Just...
So they're putting pressure on you?
Well, no. Yeah.
The pilots need to think about what will happen when they descend for landing. How will the plane behave? Will they be able to control it? But several minutes after requesting help from the ground, they're getting no advice. As Flight 261 approached Los Angeles off the coast, the problems on board were about to get far worse. The pilots on the crippled Air Alaska Flight 261 are flying manually at 32,000 feet in a plane that has a jam stabilizer that is forcing the plane's nose down. The pilots have another go at freeing up the jam stabilizer. They switch on both the electric motors that control it.
This will click it off.
Holy! You got it down. What are you doing? It clicked off.
From 31,000 feet, Flight 261 plunges down for over a minute. The crew battle for control.
Just stop us, okay? You're stalled.
At first, they pull back on the control columns to fight the dive. But then the pilots push the aircraft's nose down into the dive to regain control. It's a risky maneuver, pushing the plane's speed to 350 miles an hour.
You gotta release it. You gotta release it.
The pilots slowly bring the plane out of its dive and back under control.
Let's get speed brakes. Give me high pressure pumps.
Okay.
Help me back. Help me back.
Okay.
Center Alaska 261. We're in a dive here.
I've lost control. Vertical pitch.
Alaska 261, say again, sir.
Yeah, we're out of 26,000 feet.
We are in a vertical dive. Not a dive yet, but we have lost vertical control of our airplane. Just help me. Once we get the speed slow, maybe we'll be okay.
Maintaining level flight is difficult. The jam stabilizer keeps pushing the nose of the plane down.
We're at 23.7. Request. Yeah, we got it under control here.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Okay.
To counteract the downward force of the stabilizer, the pilots use the elevators, movable panels at the back of the tail, linked by cable to the control column. The pilots pull with all their might. The fate of the plane hangs on the strength of their arms. In the cabin, frightened passengers try to recover from the terrifying plunge. They have no idea what might happen next. Holiday memories are replaced by the fear of dying.
Dean was one of these people who would talk to whoever was around him. I'm absolutely certain that he was talking to the person that was sitting next to him on the plane. I'm sure that they had a connection.
Colleen was very unique from my other kids, and she loved to travel. She was a beautiful girl.
But here was a 25-year-old who was like she had her own private rocket ship. She was really going places.
In the cockpit, the pilots struggle to control the plane's speed so they can land.
They've got a handful of airplane. They get her stabilized, and they're now in a situation where they make the decision properly to go in on an emergency landing to Los Angeles International. And they have to be able to slow the airplane up, so you've got to experiment a little bit.
Let's take the speed brakes off.
No, leave them there. It seems to be helping. Damn. Okay, it really wants to pitch down.
Okay.
Don't mess with that.
I agree with you.
With the plane under temporary control, the crew make the fateful decision to do more troubleshooting. They need a block of clear space around the aircraft in case they lose control again. They contact air traffic control.
Alaska 261, say your conditions.
261, we're at
24,000 feet, kind of stabilized. We're slowing down here, and we're going to do a little troubleshooting.
Can you give me a block altitude between 20 and 25?
Alaska 261, maintain block altitude flight level 200 through flight level 250.
The pilots know they now have clear airspace above and below the plane. They try to figure out their next move.
You got the airplane. Let me just try it.
Okay.
How hard is it?
I don't know. My adrenaline's going. It was really rough back there for a while.
Yeah, it is. Whatever we did is no good. Let's not do that again.
Yeah, it went to full nose down.
It's worse than it was before?
Yeah, we're in much worse shape now.
The crew know this is no mere electrical problem. From what they've experienced, they assume the stabilizer is now jammed.
I think it's at the stop, full stop, and I'm thinking, can it get any worse? But it probably can. But let's slow it. Let's get down to 200 knots and see what happens.
The crisis is getting worse. Uncertain how the plane will react if they try to slow it down, the pilots must still pull on the elevators to maintain level flight. Captain Thompson once again tries to get help from maintenance.
Maintenance, 261, are you on?
Yeah, 261, this is maintenance.
Okay. We did both the pickle switch and the suitcase handles, and it ran away. It ran away full nose, trimmed down.
Oh, it ran away trimmed down?
Okay. And now we're in a damn pinch, and we're worse than we were before.
You getting full nose trimmed down, but you don't get
No nose trim up, is that correct?
That's affirmed. We went to full nose down, and I'm afraid to try it again to see if it would go in the other direction.
Okay, well, your discretion. If you want to try it, that's okay with me.
If not, that's fine. See you at the gate.
As important as it is to have that ground contact with people with maintenance manuals and experience on the ground and the ability to call up the manufacturer, it's not always going to give you a magic answer. The crew had already gone through every logic tree they possibly could think of.
Maintenance clearly do not appreciate the gravity of the situation. This is the last the crew will hear from them. No one can help the pilots now, as they struggle with the plane's faulty stabilizer. Ever professional, however, they try to put the passengers at ease.
Folks, we have had a flight control problem up front here.
We're working it. That's Los Angeles off to the right there, and that's where we're intended to go. We're pretty busy up here working this situation. I don't anticipate any big problems once we get a couple of subsystems on the line.
But we will be going into LAX, and I anticipate us parking there in about 20 to 30 minutes.
In fact, they will never make it to Los Angeles. A full-blown disaster is about to unfold. After the terrifying 8,000 feet plunge downwards, Alaska 261 has now leveled out.
LA, Alaska 261, we're with you. We're at 22.5. We have a jam stabilizer, and we're maintaining altitude with difficulty. But we can maintain altitude, we think, and our intention is to land at Los Angeles.
The pilots request to be routed out over the Pacific Ocean.
Center, Alaska 261, I need to get down about 10, change my configurations to make sure I can control the jet, and I'd like to do that over the bay here, if I may.
If the worst happens, they don't want to kill people on the ground as well as in the plane.
There are a lot of lives saved that people maybe don't realize by the fact that this aircrew said, let's stay out over the water until we've got this thing completely under control.
As they maneuver over the ocean, the crew again ask air traffic control for clear space around the plane.
Alaska 261, fly a heading of 280 and descend and maintain 17,000.
280 and 17,000 Alaska 261, and we're generally needing a block altitude.
Alaska 261, roger.
I need everything picked up and everybody strapped down.
Because I'm gonna unload the aircraft and see if we can regain control that way.
The pilots concentrate on trying to fix the plane.
I'm test flying now.
How's it feel?
It's wanting to pitch over more.
Really?
Yep.
Try flaps, 15, 11?
Let's go to 11.
Okay, get some power on.
I'm at 250 knots.
Real hard?
Well, actually, it's pretty stable right here, see, but we got to get it down to 180.
The crew try to slow the aircraft down to landing speed without losing control, but every move they make could have fatal consequences.
Okay, bring the flaps and the slats back up for me.
Slats too?
Yeah.
Treading a knife edge of control, the pilots are still trying to free up the stabilizer.
What I want to do is get the nose up, and then let the nose fall through, and see if we can stab it when it's unloaded.
The only hope for the passengers is that the pilot's skill and experience can get the plane to Los Angeles Airport.
It's on the stop now, it's on the stop.
Not according to this, it's not.
As one effort after another fails, the crew wonder if the stabilizer is damaged.
The trim might be... And then it might be if something's popped back there.
Yeah.
It might be mechanical damage, too. I think if it's controllable, we ought to just try and land it.
Think so? Okay, let's head for LA.
But just as they prepare the plane to land in Los Angeles, something in the tail suddenly breaks.
Did you feel that?
Yep. Okay, give me slats. This is a bitch.
Is it?
Yeah.
The plane dives straight down from 18,000 feet. To avoid collisions, Los Angeles Control has warned the pilots of nearby planes that Alaska 261 is in difficulty. These pilots now report back to the tower.
That plane has just started to do a big, huge plunge.
Yep.
Yes, sir. He is definitely in a nose down position, descending quite rapidly. Definitely out of control. Plane's inverted, sir. Okay. Yeah, he's inverted.
The pilots can barely reach the controls. The plane is now upside down, but they believe they might be able to roll it out of the dive.
Mayday! Push and roll! Push and roll! Kick, damn it! Push! 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 Push the blue side up!
They tried to fly the airplane even upside down. They never for a moment believed that they could not find a way to control this airplane.
Push and pushing! Okay, let's get rudder! Left rudder! Left rudder! Can't reach it! Okay! Right rudder! Right rudder!
Plane was being knocked from side to side. It turned upside down. It was spinning. Persons were being thrown against the walls of the plane, falling out of their seats, and the cockpit voice recorder screaming. Unbelievable, horrible last few minutes of their lives.
Are we flying? We're flying! We're flying! Tell them what we're doing. Let me just... damn. At least upside down, we're flying. Yeah.
And it was so violently upside down that the pilots were hanging from their shoulder straps. Passengers don't have shoulder straps.
Here we go.
And he just hit the water. Yes, sir. He hit the water. He's down.
After a terrifying 60-second dive, Flight 261 hit the Pacific Ocean at over 250 miles an hour. Rescue helicopters were soon at the crash site, but there were no survivors. The plane had broken up on impact. 88 passengers and crew, including 3 young children, died instantly. Fred Miller lost his daughter Abby and her husband Ryan.
These people suffered on the way down. This was not a pretty way to die. One witness who I met, a jogger on the beach down at Port Hueneme, he said, "You look like you lost somebody." And I said, "I did, my daughter." He said, "You know, I saw the plane go down." He said the plane was inverted and twisting and flipping, and then he said it spun at times, almost like a top. And he said, to think people, somebody who has a life to live is in there, dying. He said, He says it's one of the most horrifying memories I'll ever have.
Susan De Silva lost her husband, Dean.
I know that they went through a horrible, horrible experience. This was a violent end these people suffered. There were no bodies that were intact or even close to intact. And they were conscious for a long time before it all came apart.
Colleen Worley died along with her fiancé, Monty.
As a mother, keep waiting for your child to come home. And Colleen had traveled so much in her life that it was unusual not to have her just walk in the door. All this time you're thinking something caused this, something made this happen, and I want to find out who's responsible for this.
The investigation into Flight 261 immediately got underway, but the wreckage lay 700 feet down, so National Transportation Board officials called on Navy submersibles to retrieve the debris from the seabed.
We set up a base of operations, and we had a remote operating vehicle with the side-scanning sonar, which they used to map the debris field and get an idea of how widely spread the wreckage was.
At the National Transportation Safety Board headquarters in Washington, the investigators' immediate concern was to find out what had brought the plane down. The first clues came from the cockpit voice recordings.
LA, Alaska 261, we're with you. We're at 22.5. We have a jam stabilizer, and we're maintaining altitude with difficulty.
We immediately suspected some problem in the tail of the airplane, which is where the controls are. Something was wrong back there, and that was the key piece of wreckage to look for.
The MD-83 that crashed was a revised version of the Douglas Corporation's popular DC-9, over 2,000 of which were delivered to airlines worldwide. The engines were at the rear, and the distinctive T-shaped tail was an essential element of the design.
In a big turbojet aircraft, one of the rather brilliant elements of the design is that since you're going to be loading passengers and cargo, you want to be able to have that aircraft loaded a little nose heavy or a little tail heavy. Well, in order to do that, you actually had to have that entire stabilizer moving. But the ones that are the most difficult to engineer are the T-tailed airplanes, where you have the vertical stabilizer and the horizontal sitting on top. And we call that stabilizer trim. And that is an essential element of what makes these aircraft so usable.
In the MD-83, a motorized jack screw in the tail moves the horizontal stabilizer up and down. As the stabilizer moves up, the nose of the plane moves down. As the stabilizer moves down, the nose moves up. But what role had the 2-foot jack screw played in the loss of Flight 261? The investigators were anxious to inspect it as soon as it was recovered from the seabed.
The jack screw wasn't mated with the nut that it screws into. It was just by itself, and the nut was found in another piece of structure a few feet away from where the jack screw was. To have a screw separate itself from a nut with very thick threads surprised us. Secondly, we noticed that there was a curled piece of brass around the jack screw, and all of the threads that you can see here, these ridges, were gone. They had been stripped out, and the remnants of those were found coiled on the jack screw.
Once the thread had been stripped off the nut, the jack screw could no longer turn. The pilots could not have known the real nature of the problem.
The crew was confronted with a situation that had never occurred before. There is no failed jack screw procedure in the quick reference handbooks that they have available. There is no training for it.
When the jack screw jammed, The crew were unable to adjust the stabilizer.
We felt that it was due to the fact that these nut threads had worn away and it was just too hard for that jack screw under the power of the electric motor to turn. That gave the flight crew an indication that there was a problem.
The crew knew they had a problem in the tailplane, but they had no idea what. 2 motors controlled the jack screw. They tried each in turn, but the pilot's attempts to free the jam stabilizer inadvertently made their situation worse.
We're at 23.7. Request. Yeah, we got it under control here.
No, we don't.
Where they went wrong was that they wanted to try both the alternate and the primary trim motors at the same time.
When the pilots switched both the electric motors on, the jack screw moved, but the threads had given way and the jack screw was now held only by a single retaining nut. From here on, the plane was doomed.
That end nut was never designed to hold the loads generated aerodynamically by the airplane.
Let's get speed brakes. Give me high pressure pumps.
Okay.
Now we know, in the glaring light of hindsight, now when we turn the situation around in time and look back, we can see that this aircrew and no aircrew should have ever been fooling with the trim and trying to run it back and forth.
The retaining nut grew weaker and weaker.
Then, finally, through the loads beating down on that nut, the nut finally failed.
Feel that?
Yep. Okay, give me slats.
The jack screw slid completely out of the Acme nut, allowing the horizontal stabilizer to move well beyond its aerodynamic limits.
This is a bitch.
Is it? Yeah.
The stabilizer forced the plane down, and now, completely out of control, it rolled over into its final dive.
Okay, let's keep rudder. Slap rudder. Up rudder.
I can't reach it.
This crew was working to recover the aircraft right down to the water. I mean, they did not give up the whole way down through the descent.
Here we go.
It was clear to the investigators that the failure of the jack screw was the only explanation for the plane's erratic flight path and final dive. But why had this happened? Why had the jack screw failed? The investigators began looking deeper and deeper into the condition of the faulty jack screw on Flight 261. What had caused it to fail?
There was no lubrication or visible grease on the working area of the screw. That was surprising and strange.
The discovery of no grease on the jack screw alarmed the investigators. They alerted the Federal Aviation Administration, who ordered an immediate check on all MD-80s in the USA. This led to a shocking discovery. At Alaska Airlines, in 6 of its fleet of 34 planes, the jack screw assembly needed to be replaced after failing new inspections.
No grease is the culprit. No grease or inadequate grease is the only thing that can give you that wear rate.
A simple lack of grease led to the failure of the jack screw and the loss of 88 lives. But why did this happen at Alaska Airlines? The investigators' attention now switched to the company's maintenance program. What emerged was deeply worrying.
We interviewed all the mechanics who had worked on these airplanes. We knew that they had been falsifying records or not doing the work they had indicated.
The mechanics at Alaska complained that they were pressured to keep the planes in the air, or that their recommendations were overruled by supervisors. Some alleged that records were altered to show work done that was not done. Alaska has long been one of America's most successful airlines, but in the early 1990s, the economic downturn hit the company hard. Its response was to slash costs to revive its fortunes. Pilots, maintenance workers, management and others had to make sacrifices. Jobs were lost, pay was cut, and every hour aircraft spent on the ground was seen as waste. 2 years of aggressive axe-wielding saw costs come down by $80 million. Profits leapt. It was a corporate triumph.
In Alaska's case, in the early 90s, this airline had to do an incredible job of reforming itself from a fairly high-cost carrier to a lower-cost carrier that could compete head-on with Southwest Airlines and with others. And they did it. They did it brilliantly. Nobody really believed that it could happen.
Alaska Airlines began flying the planes more intensively. It doubled the average daily use of its fleet. But keeping the planes in the air earning money put maintenance schedules under pressure. John Leotine was a former lead mechanic at Alaska Airlines' Oakland maintenance facility, where he worked for over 8 years. Leotine felt that the new pressures on maintenance put passengers' lives at risk. He was to pay dearly for expressing those concerns. We have used an actor to portray his experiences based on his sworn evidence to the NTSB. Leotine claimed that planes were pushed back into service too quickly. Sometimes, rather than wait for a replacement part or repair, supervisors passed planes fit for service, free to carry passengers up into the air. In October 1998, over 15 months before the crash, John Leotine became so worried that he did something that would change his life forever. He reported Alaska Airlines to the U.S. Department of Transportation, alleging violations in maintenance procedures.
There were very few voices at Alaska who had concerns about the maintenance. There should have been more, and there should have been people listening. John Leotine is a hero in my book.
In December 1999, over a year before the crash, the FAA and Department of Transportation officials moved on Alaska Airlines. The case was referred to federal prosecutors, and the FBI raided Alaska's maintenance facilities and seized thousands of records. The raid was the opening shot in a federal grand jury investigation that would last 3 years. No criminal charges were brought against the airline. Alaska officials denied that any unsafe planes were put into service or that passengers' lives were ever at risk. But the investigation revealed hundreds of violations of federal regulations. Alaska Airlines was fined. The FAA insisted on changes to the company's maintenance and safety procedures. The FAA also suspended 2 supervisors for falsifying records. Like other whistleblowers, John Leotine would pay heavily for his efforts to save lives. Alaska put him on paid leave from his job, losing him thousands of dollars in regular overtime earnings. Then in January 2000, John Leotine saw his worst nightmare come true. The kind of accident he had tried to prevent now took place just off the California coast. After the loss of Flight 261, Leontine went back to his private work records. Incredibly, he found he had a direct link to the crashed airliner. 2 years before, at the plane's last overhaul, he had ordered that the jack screw on this very aircraft be replaced. He then went off shift. When investigators examined the record, they found that Leontine's recommendation had been overruled by the next shift and the plane put back into service. It would be 2 years before the next overhaul, but time ran out. 4 months before the overhaul was due, Flight 261 crashed. Alaska Airlines labeled Leontine a disruptive influence. He sued the company for libel. Alaska settled, but Leontine could no longer work in the industry he loved.
I get calls almost every week of somebody saying, should I blow the whistle? And I always tell them, you need to know, you need to be prepared to find another line of work, because you will not work in the industry and you will not work in the government. In most cases, it's almost impossible to be a whistleblower and survive your career.
As the investigators continued their work into Flight 261, they made another disturbing discovery about the drive to cut costs at Alaska Airlines. To keep planes flying more intensively, Alaska had dramatically extended the intervals between service. This was significant because when a plane is designed, every part has a schedule listing when it is serviced and when it must be replaced.
You're supposed to go in and inspect every so many hours, and that's different on parts all over the planes. Some things you have to look at after every flight. Other things have to be inspected every 2 or 3 days.
In 1996, Alaska Airlines extended the intervals between MD-80 jack screw inspections by 400%. Before 1996, jack screws were inspected every 600 flight hours. Now there was over 2,500 hours between each service.
If you had 600 hours between inspection points and greasing points, we have no chance of ever having a metal-to-metal contact situation. But if you put that out to 2,000 hours or 2,500 hours, now what you do is eat into some of these protective stages, these barriers that we have towards catastrophic failure.
Investigations Division.
In its final report into the crash of Flight 261, the NTSB concluded that the extended service intervals for the jack screws on its MD-80s was a significant contributor to the crash.
With any of your supervisors up the chain in the engineering area?
I don't recall.
With carriers, doing anything to save a dime, maintenance, safety, took a back seat. And one of the shocking things about Alaska is that they were allowed to increase inspection intervals. And it was very shocking because that is the only way we have safety.
The extended maintenance intervals meant that the lack of grease on the jack screw went undiscovered. But now investigators also wondered if the failure of the jack screw assembly revealed a basic flaw in the plane's design. They found that the MD-80 broke one of the fundamental rules of aircraft design. It was not fail-safe.
The design philosophy that has made aviation so safe is that we should never ever have a situation in which one catastrophic failure of some component of the airplane causes us to lose the airplane. These backups to the backup, backing up the backups, is why we can get on an airplane with almost 100% assurance that we're going to get where we want to go safely.
There was no backup to the jack screw and its nut. Engineers never envisaged a situation on the MD-80 where the jack screw might fail. With inspections every 600 flight hours and replacement every 2,000 hours, the designers did not add an additional redundant backup system.
It was utterly laughable that they said it was a redundant system. There's one screw and there's one nut. That's all there is. It's not redundant.
The MD-80 continues to fly worldwide. Despite the revelation of this dangerous design flaw, the jack screw assembly has not been redesigned. Inspection intervals have been shortened, but airlines still rely on proper maintenance to prevent the same accident happening again.
Investigations Division.
In its final report, the National Transportation Safety Board concluded that the crash of Flight 261 was due to the lack of adequate greasing and the stretched service intervals. When coupled with the design of the jack screw, these failures led to a completely avoidable accident and the loss of 88 lives. Three years after the crash of Flight 261, the relatives and friends of the dead dedicated a permanent memorial at Port Hueneme, close to the crash site.
Janice Stokes.
I think the best thing and the only thing in our infinite inadequacy of making up for the loss from this life is to say something that we've been able to say on a lot of other accidents to other grieving families, and that is, those deaths will not be in vain. We will not let them be in vain. Every one of those lives will be made to count in terms of making sure that 3, 4, 5, or 10 other people do not die.
Miss Carol Carlson.
Colleen was different. She was adventurous, and there's nobody like that in our family. And I don't know what we can do except to remember Colleen and to live our lives now a little bit better for her.
You know, when I was growing up, we didn't wear seatbelts. There weren't even seatbelts in cars. And now we know that we need to wear seatbelts. We didn't know that much about smoking cigarettes, and now we know that we can't smoke cigarettes. Well, there's a lot to learn about airline safety, too.
Ryan Bushy.
None of us are the same anymore. It's like walking into a giant storm. Wave after wave forming up, coming in, because it never stops. Grief over the loss of a child is not something I wish on anybody. This plane went down because of neglect. It seems like such an unholy type of loss. What a hard way to die. So an airline can, you know, make more money.